Welcome to Game 8 Reviews.
Game 8 Reviews back again, and this time we are taking a look at DICE's latest FPS, Battlefield 2042. After a 10-year gap, the studio finally brings back the fan-favorite modern Battlefield playstyle, and even ups the max player count to 128. But has this title lived up to the long-awaited hype? The game has been out for over a month now and has already seen a few updates, so we will be reviewing a minor updated version of the game on a PS5 console. Released 3 years after its predecessor Battlefield 5, Battlefield 2042 is the first to be adapted for the new-gen consoles PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. Watch till the end to see our breakdown of Battlefield 2042 and the score our team gave it after many hours of play. DICE has tried to really shake things up and introduce a lot of new features to the franchise, but to everyone's disappointment, fans did not react the way that the team had hoped for.
I'm fucking dying here! Medic!
In the standard Battlefield fashion, the game has been released with more bugs than we can count, but we will touch on that later. For now, let's take a look at some of the different features DICE has introduced in its popular franchise. The first one you will notice is that there is no longer a campaign. Now, we here at Game 8 see this as a smart move because no one plays Battlefield for the story, and with its absence, the development team can focus on improving more important aspects of the game like the fast-paced and action-packed multiplayer we all love. Or so we had hoped. The original class system that helped lead to some great teamwork and collaborative squad play has been completely revamped. Which brings us to one of the biggest and boldest changes this title has made, Specialist. Instead of picking from one of the 4 standard classes, 2042 introduces their take on unique characters that all have their own special traits and abilities. Abilities like placeable turrets, wall hacks, grappling hooks, wingsuits, and more. This was a huge surprise to us, as one of the reasons we enjoy Battlefield so much is that you are filling the role of a nameless soldier where teamwork and the objective are of the utmost importance. DICE, and what can be seen as an attempt to remain relevant in a very competitive market, has introduced characters and skills into their game. For a game that highlights its large-scale combat, it is hard to get our heads around a character system that is better suited for smaller team-based games. The previous system had certain weapons and gadgets locked to a specific class, which required a successful team to have a nice synergy. In 2042, all classes, or specialists, can use any weapon and any gadget. It will be no big surprise when you load into the game that you and your squad have virtually the same loadout, since just looking at the specialist your teammate has does not give you any actual info on their possible loadout. Now this could be something you would communicate with your squad, except there is no voice chat in the game. It seems that voice chat will be included in a future update, but it is strange to leave it out of a game that requires so much teamwork. While text chat is available, console players will be at quite a disadvantage when trying to communicate with their team. Another issue that arises when looking at these specialists is how to balance them. When there were only 4 classes available, gadgets and weapons were the only thing that needed balancing. But now with 10 specialists, and possibly more on the way, this makes balancing their abilities an important yet difficult task, as players will discover some kind of exploit, like placing C5 on a recon drone, then flying it from a safe distance and blowing everyone up. While the community is a bit divided, it would seem that the majority would like to see some kind of change made with the specialists. On top of the new character skills, DICE has also added in a new way to keep the combat never ending with the new call-in system. A team has a given amount of vehicles or turret robot dogs, known as Rangers, that they can have active at one time. Following a cooldown, any player can call in one of these vehicles or Rangers directly to the battlefield. Now this may seem like an exciting addition to the game, but like a lot of other aspects introduced, it is implemented poorly and ruined by all of the bugs. Players have reported that despite having a vehicle available, they are not able to call it in. Other problems with this is that you may have trouble calling anything in at all because other team members are just spamming it. While it is convenient to have the option to call in a vehicle at your location, the system still needs some adjustments to make it work well. Not only has DICE introduced some controversial features, they left out some that the game is just not the same without. We can start with the new, or better term lack of, UI in the game. There's no stats page, no scoreboard, and there's no way to see your overall career progression. This may not seem like much, but not being able to see information like player score, what specialists everyone is running, or even if the teams are properly balanced really takes away from the overall game. The scoring system has changed as well, where everything revolves around an XP system, and very uncharacteristic of a Battlefield title, kills will rack up the most points. In previous games where following orders and helping take down a vehicle also netted a decent amount of points, the game has taken out any need of real teamwork. Sure, you still get some XP for spotting and throwing health or ammo, but the new system rewards players for getting kills over playing as a team, which is not what we want to see in a large-scale combat game, and we especially don't want to see it in a Battlefield title. Another missing but important feature is that there is no server browser for most modes. Portal is the only current mode that has a server browser, but when playing the DICE-created playlist, players will disband after every match, and you will need to use matchmaking to find another game, every time. In a recent update, the devs finally added in the nearby medic indicator when waiting for a revive, but there is not much indication for the medic that you are downed. A mark on the minimap or something like that would have been nice for medics, because if a downed player is not in your direct line of sight, chances are you will not notice them. The list of features we wish were in the game could go on for a long time, so we will just leave it at that for now. Let's take a look at the different game modes the new Battlefield has to offer. Making a return from previous titles, DICE gives us Conquest and Breakthrough. And that's it. For the All-Out Warfare category, DICE has included just 2 game modes. Players now have the option of choosing 128 or 64 player servers due to the recent update, but that is the only variety given. It seems they are really hoping the other 2 game modes carry the game until more modes, hopefully, get released. Battlefield 5 players should remember DICE's attempt at a battle royale, the mess that was Firestorm. Well, DICE is trying again with Battlefield 2042 and the new mode, Hazard Zone. This game mode has a lot of potential, but it misses on so many levels that it would make you imagine a pre-alpha version of Escape from Tarkov. Fight up to 7 other squads and incredibly accurate AI, all while trying to collect data drives and make your escape on one of the 2 extraction planes. Other than the AI, there is very little fighting in this mode except for around the extraction zones. You can be sure that there will be an enemy team waiting in a vehicle to quickly erase your last 10 to 15 minutes of effort. When you extract successfully, you are awarded points. These points are used to purchase weapons, equipment, and other perks for your next run. The mode is entertaining for your first few runs, but then it quickly gets repetitive, which is a bad sign in a battle royale game mode. Perhaps the saving grace and mode that will keep this game alive past its prime is the Portal. This gives players the key to making whatever they would like in the game. There are a lot of modes players can enjoy from here. The ever-popular Rush can be found here as well, as one of the official game modes in Portal, which raises the question of why did DICE get rid of Rush in the first place. The Portal mode has the potential to really unlock all the possibilities this game has to offer. It seems like DICE is banking on that though, since this game at launch feels quite underwhelming. One of the most important things when putting together a solid FPS is that the maps need to be just right. DICE has released 7 maps on launch, and while they are indeed large in size, they often feel quite empty, and battles generally take place in only a few locations per sector. While near an objective, the maps are somewhat covered with cover and buildings, but there is too much nothingness in between spawns and objectives. Let's take a look at a Battlefield 5 map. Battlefield 5 maps have so much more detail and effort put into them. The maps are still quite large, and most areas don't feel as ignored as they are in Battlefield 2042. What is the point of hyping up the world size if most of it is just sprinkled with any actual real detail? There was also the issue of rooftop objectives when playing Breakthrough. Of the 7 maps, 3 of them had an objective on tall rooftops where, due to not enough entry points, was basically impossible to take as the attackers. DICE has acknowledged this problem and in a quick fix sort of way just remove all rooftop objectives. This fix is hopefully only temporary while they work out the bugs to correct this oversight. At certain points in each map, there will be some kind of event that will somewhat change the battlefield. Rockets launching or extreme weather will be a major inconvenience when trying to take out or defend objectives, and while these events started off as fun and intense obstacles, they get repetitive very quickly and just become somewhat of a nuisance. Getting stuck in a tornado is interesting once, but then loses its appeal after the third or fourth time. Let's now take a look at the combat and overall gunplay.
We're not short on resources, but we may be soon.
The first thing we need to mention is the lack of weapons in this game. We were very underwhelmed with the arsenal we had at launch. This, plus having to unlock everything, really gives this game a slow start. One of the positives though is that each gun handles and sounds differently. There are various attachments to earn for each gun, and with the new Plus system, players can change these in the heat of battle. This was a great new feature, as the ability to change barrels is quite useful, but being able to cycle through different scopes while fighting is a real game changer, where the only break in combat is when traveling to another objective. You can't have a battlefield without having some OP vehicles, and this game is no different. With rockets actually being useful from a distance again, it is much harder for land vehicles to camp in the back, but it is not impossible. Especially when playing Rush or Breakthrough, land vehicles can use the terrain to their advantage and shoot from afar. Aerial vehicles, however, are the real problem in this game. As of now, there are only 2 anti-vehicle range weapons, one for land and one for air. Jets are more agile than ever and are almost impossible to take out from the ground. Helicopters are fast, and while they have a decent timer on their flares, depending on the map they can be almost impossible to take out. Even more troublesome than this is that helicopters can just hover in the sky out of missile range and rain down rockets and bullets without any opposition. Vehicle customization is also quite limited when looking at previous titles. We hope to see more adjustments to this because one can't have a battlefield without vehicles. Using a new but unknown version of Frostbite, 2042's visuals and audio are fantastic. While some fans may claim that overall destruction in this game is on the low end, there is still a lot of beautiful demolition that takes place. Entire buildings may not collapse like in Battlefield 3 or other titles, but chipping away at a wall or other structures and watching their structural integrity deteriorate as the battle wages on is satisfying to say the least. There are some levels, however, where this does not get to stand out as much because of the lack of structures or cover in them. The audio has been fine-tuned where every weapon sounds different, and when the battle ramps up it can feel like you are in an actual war zone. A problem with this though is that because the maps are so open, there are actually a lot of moments where the game feels quiet, which is not something you'd expect from a 64 versus 64 player shooter.
Control of Echo Sector.
Finally, we must address the obvious: the bugs. In the classic Battlefield fashion, this title was almost unplayable at launch. However, with updates coming in almost weekly, DICE has addressed a lot of the issues. One of the biggest bugs though was that players have reported having trouble just logging into the game, where the problem could persist for an entire day. While it has already been addressed in a patch, players are still having issues with bullet hit registration. There are also issues with not being able to choose your loadout in a game. Boris has a bug where he can't put down his turret, dead players can't be revived because their bodies clip into a part of the map, texture popping, just to name a few. The devs have been keeping constant communication with the community and releasing patches as fast as they can, but it will take more than just bug fixes to make this into the title fans were expecting. Every Battlefield has been ridden with bugs upon release, but if it was unacceptable then, it is surely unacceptable now. While the action is intense and the game's sounds will put you directly on the battlefield, maps are too open and players will find the game a little quiet until they make their way to where the battles are actually happening. No voice chat, no scoreboard, uninteresting and unnecessary specialists, and other missing features has us questioning why DICE would make these decisions. But despite the numerous bugs and questionable choices, when you are able to get into a match and are in the heat of the battle, the game is just so much fun. Walls being blown up around you, vehicles zooming by, trying to take the objective with 0 tickets remaining, we are enjoying ourselves so much more than we did in Battlefield 5. The Portal mode is promising and can potentially keep this game alive for a long time. The current state of the game is poor, but we believe this title has a bright future. which is why we are giving Battlefield 2042 a 5.5 out of 10. While the score is low, do not let that deter you from trying out this title in the future. With more patches and bug fixes on the way, 2042 can be the modern Battlefield that fans have waited a decade for. Thank you so much everyone for sticking around till the end of the video. Please let us know in the comments how you felt about the game and what do you think about our score. Is it too high? Is it too low? Write it down and let us know. As always, like and subscribe. Thanks, and see you in the next one.